What's up, and welcome to episode 20 of The Sup. My name is Chase, and as you can tell, my partner in crime, James, is not here today. It's his 34th wedding anniversary. So everybody be sure to go to his latest X post and tell him happy 34th anniversary. He's going to love it so much. Him and his wife have a beautiful relationship, a beautiful family. I'm so stoked that he got to kind of take the evening off, and I got to enjoy this just with Daniel. Speaking of Daniel, welcome to The Sup. This is Daniel, the co-founder of Tradeport. So Daniel, just welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Talk about all things Supra and NFTs.
I love it, man. All things Supra, NFTs, and what the future holds, because I think there's a lot of kind of future insight going to be leaked in this episode for sure. So, as we usually do on the show, we usually get into tech news first, a little bit of ecosystem news as well, just kind of catching people up, crossing the T's and dotting the I's of some industry news. So, the first thing we did want to talk about today was Google I/O's developer conference reveals huge breakthroughs in AI. So Google's I/O was held last night, and while there were huge announcements like Gemini Talkback, expressive captions, and live Google Meet translation, which I think is kind of already happening, the biggest was their VO3. Now, which is, I mean, this is, if you have you done a little bit of research on this, by the way, before I continue on?
Not on specifically VO3.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool, awesome. So I actually hadn't either until like legitimately last night when I was looking into this. So I'm happy that me and you were kind of both on the same page here to where we could talk about it in that regard. So users can essentially generate videos with soundtracks, talking characters, sound effects, cinematic styles based on other movies or TV shows that you like. And it's a huge sideswipe at the video industry, especially for creators, right? And then the lines between real video art and AI generated, like, it's going to be even more blurry and confusing for the viewer now. So I'd love your thoughts here, man. Like, as tech clearly gets better and it's happening at a rapid pace. I mean, you can even look 6 months ago to where ChatGPT was, and it's nowhere near where it is now. When we watch regular trailers, or like, let's say we watch video content anymore, will you be able to tell the difference? Is there going to be a fine line to where you're like, oh, well, look, that guy's got 6 fingers, or, oh, hey, the words are spelled wrong in the background? Like, what is your thoughts on kind of this moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually, and before not too long, you won't be able to tell a difference.
Totally agree.
And I think that's awesome in some ways, right? Like, this really democratizes creation, allows people to that are creative but don't have the resources of a studio behind them.
Yep.
To create really cool video art. But there is probably an element of us humans that we will want to know whether it's AI or human generated. Even as like the AI creation gets better, and it surpasses maybe what humans could do in terms of creativity. I think there's going to be an element of like, let's bifurcate this somehow, and we want to know what was created by humans so we can appreciate the human creativity, but then also be entertained and wowed by this maybe even more creative or impressive pieces that the AI models basically put together.
For sure. I think the prompt situation will always have to be a necessity. And does it have to be a human to create more creative prompts? I don't know the answer to that. But I think as far as now, creativity, like, I'm more creative than a ChatGPT prompt is. Like, if I were to go and ask GPT, hey, create a picture of a fox sitting on this or whatever, it's like it would give me a very generic version, but I would give it a more in-depth prompt. I would give it more layers to this creation, and it would do something better, right? So I do think that maybe the human aspect of AI isn't going away anytime soon. Like, it does have to have a driver, like a car, you know what I mean? Well, I guess it's not a great example because there's self-driving cars, but you get what I'm saying here. So speaking of this whole concept, how does this play into the NFTs proving ownership of IP? Like, so now let's say I own a CryptoPunk, and I want to go take that CryptoPunk and I want to go turn it into a TV show, or I want to create my own little web series. How does that play into like things like VEO3? How does that play into NFT kind of ownership moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general there will be really cool mechanics in this space where you'll be able to go, say you and obviously people kind of have to build these things out, but say you create a video with your CryptoPunk, IP, and or CryptoPunks it creates a something with their IP. Being able to go like sign a transaction and prove that you own that one, like this wallet owns this item, or the collection creator created this video, and having a little verified check mark. Like someone should build out an authentication service like that where you can do that, and it becomes kind of like common knowledge that okay, this is created from the real IP owners. Uh,
Yeah.
Anything else basically is fan art. Same thing with like I've thought about this with AI getting improving so much, and you're gonna have potentially like Tom Cruise doing Mission Impossible movies in 30 years,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
people have, made this possible, these AI models have made this possible. And maybe if that's the case, then, the creator can go to Tom Cruise's estate, trustee and say, "Hey, I want to create this, Mission Impossible spinoff with Tom Cruise in it, and will you certify the IP, certify his likeness, whatever it is." And they sign a blockchain transaction verifying that like, hey, this is an official like Tom Cruise IP movie.
Right.
I can see certainly like things like that playing out.
Yeah, that's super interesting. By the way, builders, he just gave you $1 million idea. All right, get out, get out there and start building. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit of ecosystem news and kind of rolls into CryptoPunks as a whole. So CryptoPunks, which is, I mean, if you've been in the uh, in the in the NFT space or in crypto for any amount of time, especially the NFT world, CryptoPunks is the premier NFT project. They are at the top of the top. It's definitely a status symbol for most people, which I mean, if an NFT is worth $140,000 floor, probably a status should come with it as well. But so Google, excuse me, I actually just scrolled up. So CryptoPunks was acquired for 20 million to Infinite Node Foundation. And the crazy thing about the Infinite Node Foundation, they're a nonprofit focused on digital art preservation, and which I think is a really cool idea, especially kind of preserving the art from a project as influential as CryptoPunks was. So Node plans to collaborate with leading museums and art institutions to integrate CryptoPunks into their global art historical canon. They also intend to debut a major curated exhibition in the entire collection alongside the opening of their own permanent exhibition in Palo Alto, Brazil, which will feature a live Ethereum node to emphasize long-term accessibility and decentralized infrastructure. So what's your just idea over this as a whole? When you have these huge foundations coming and buying out NFT projects, when let's be real, the past of what an NFT was is kind of dead. If you were an NFT project and you're rolling off the basis of only being a PFP and being art based, those die very quickly these days. There's too many creative people and there's too many other competitors at this time. When CryptoPunks released, wasn't really the issue, right? It was a totally different situation in crypto and NFT as a whole. So, what's your overall view of something like this?
Yeah, I mean, CryptoPunks obviously is an extremely like unique one of one type collection, right? Where
Yeah,
it created basically the whole PFP movement, and
yeah,
really like for all intents and purposes, I know there were some NFTs prior to CryptoPunks, but it really did. It's kind of the genesis of NFTs, and so people view it as like synonymous with NFTs and with this new art movement, basically,
yeah,
or new art format. So, this is I think, a very unique scenario. I do think that this is like the perfect home for punks, though.
yeah.
I love punks and what it's all about, and was worried when Yuga Labs took over that they would eventually try to do something with punks. And punks, no one needs to do anything with punks. They just need to be there.
Exactly.
They don't need to have any utility. People don't need to try to, they don't need to try to even monetize the IP, right? Like
Yeah,
they just need to be the art that they are and represent the NFTs as a new art format. And I think that's what they'll be in this home. And I think they'll help more modern art enjoyers really understand that. So this specific scenario I think is interesting. In general, though, like look at Pudgy Penguins. Luca bought them out.
Killing it.
When they were in the doldrums and just created a real brand out of it. And I think that maybe is like an interesting format to look at, or like an interesting way that we'll see more acquisitions like this in the future, right? Like, they built an awesome brand through this, awesome IP, and it's a full-fledged kind of like worldwide brand now, with the NFTs as the centerpiece. And then like wrecked drinks basically were created from wrecked NFTs and the wrecked token. So I think you'll start to see more maybe established collections or even new collections build up communities like this, and then build up a brand. And then traditional companies may start to see the value in like, oh wow, when you have 10,000, or say if there's 4,000 holders of a 10,000 piece collection, we have 4,000 diehard fans at the center of this community. You can actually build a real brand out of it that's $1 billion plus brand, and that's when I think you'll see more of these kind of like acquisitions. And I think it's actually good. Like I think NFTs purely as speculation, that's not as sustainable, but using them to center a brand around and build a core community around, I think is super interesting, and was one of the reasons I first got into NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I think Luca, I mean, man, what he's done with Pudgy, from just a standpoint of taking it from an NFT to being into Walmart to releasing a blockchain like Abstract, which is doing incredible. It's really a creator and community focused blockchain. I bring them up all the time because I'm just so impressed with how they've been able to transition and continue to kind of push the envelope within the Web3 game, especially when they were a part of the huge crash of NFTs a couple of years ago within Ethereum. We were seeing projects die that we never thought we were going to see die. You saw Bored Apes floor go to what? It's like 12 now, and it was like literally a riding floor of 50 to 80 to 100 for years. And we never thought this was going to go away. And then so when you start seeing the kings fall, it's like, oh, well, then here's the end of Ethereum NFTs. And I think everybody kind of felt that way, right? It's like, okay, well, maybe this is why people are going to Sui to trade meme coins, right? That was kind of like the next fun thing to do. And so I totally agree. Building that brand, building a community that can fight on their shield for you speaks wonders. And then when you go and you're talking to these Web2 brands that maybe have been interested in Web3, but have never really wanted to take the jump, it's like, well, here, like for Pudgy Penguins is a perfect example. Okay, well, here's an NFT project that actually made it in Web2. Making it into Walmart is no easy feat. Incredibly hard. And now they're a worldwide brand. My kids have Pudgy Penguin stuffies, and they just bought them to my wife when they went to Walmart. They have no idea what it is. They walked in the house with them, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, legitimately, I was like kind of offended.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I go, wait a minute, what is this? One of them's got like a baseball hat on. He goes, it looks like you, Dad. And I was like, that's the sweetest shit I've ever heard. He just saw a little stuffed animal penguin that he thought was cute that had a hat on like his dad, and he was like, I want it. And so that's where you're seeing these brands really change the narrative for Web3 and really NFT products as a whole. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think they're doing incredible stuff over there. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to the whole Abstract team. I got your back, baby. I love y'all over there.
They're awesome. They've done great. And I think that's a perfect example.
Yeah, awesome, cool. And then I could literally talk to you about this for hours, but due to time, I know you're a busy guy. I know you have much to do, so let's keep it moving. Another ecosystem news is we revealed our groundbreaking white paper, Supra 2.0. We released a new white paper detailing Supra 2.0, which introduces our AutoFi, an AI-driven Oracle and automation system integrated into our layer 1. This system combines native Oracle price feeds, on-chain automation, and cross-chain messaging to enable self-operating DeFi primitives. The white paper highlights how Supra's vertically integrated infrastructure delivers high-speed, secure, and decentralized data feeds for over 90 blockchains, enhancing AI finance applications. So Daniel, I know that that was a lot. That was a lot I just went through. Have you had a chance to go over the most recent AutoFi white paper that we released, and and if not, have you paid attention to what we've been up to in the AutoFi space?
Yeah, actually, I did. I didn't read the white paper.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, I watched a video on it. It was a little easier for me to consume.
Absolutely.
But but I think it's a super fascinating approach. I mean, I can see why, building DeFi directly into the L1 makes a lot of sense, right? Like being able to automatically execute transactions and arbitrages when they come up.
Yeah,
I think is super interesting and just like much more efficient for everyone on the chain.
absolutely.
And then can also capture value that potentially wasn't possible before,
Yeah.
which could make a more sustainable kind of pathway for an L1. So I think it's super interesting. I'm not like I hadn't really thought about it before, so the specific use cases of how it might work, I haven't fully thought through, but I think it makes a lot of sense.
I have a fun idea. And since we're talking on NFTs, I brought this up when we first talked about it, and everybody was like, "Yeah, but that's not a selling point of AutoFi." I was like, "Yeah, but it's really fucking cool that you can do this." So, like, let's say you have a wallet with your NFTs in it, and my wallet has been dead. I lost my seed phrase. I have a NFT worth a couple $1,000s in there that I would really like back, or I'm really a part of this community. I'm sad that I've lost everything. All my NFTs that I have in this wallet are now dead. Well, with AutoFi, after let's say after 6 months of time, if this wallet has not done anything within 6 months, made a transaction, signed a transaction, sent an NFT, bought an NFT, send everything in my wallet to the Treasury wallet for this said NFT collection. Like let's say, because all NFT collections will have a Treasury wallet where they keep money, where they keep tokens, where they keep other NFTs that they want to use for market incentives or giveaways or community incentives, whatever it may be. So what if that's like a use case of it? My wallet's dead. I lost my seed phrase. Now everything I've ever worked for in the past, I've been in NFT since 2017. Everything I've worked for since then is gone. But 6 months down the line, I'll be able to get it back because it's going to be sent to like a founder I trust or the NFT project that I'm most involved with community wise. It's like I think that's an awesome idea. And something else I thought about, it's like this is a built-in will. What if I have I'm 80 years old, but I'm a Bitcoin multi-millionaire. I don't have a
Yeah.
will. You don't have my seed phrase. I die. Okay. Well, in 6 months, if nothing is changing on my wallet, send it to my son or my bank's vault or whatever it is. Send it to a safe, secure spot. So it's like all these funds that could change your family's life, or change your initial life or your children or your wife or whatever. All this money that should be essentially gone forever is now not gone anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's a super cool use case. I've always thought about that, like with when you pass away, if you have
Yeah,
your
yeah,
crypto in your
dude.
wallets, like making it's hard to make something like automatically happen, and then if your estate attorney or your trustee doesn't know how to deal with all that stuff,
Yeah,
then
it's stuck.
good luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like one of my friends, his wife's grandpa passed away and apparently had Bitcoin. They have no idea how much.
Oh
It
no.
could have been zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, or it could have been like 50
100.
Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And they don't have any information on it. And like, if that was set up on this, they would be able to, just have that sent to a wallet that they could access. So
Exactly. So
I didn't think about that when I initially, watched this, but that's obviously a great use case.
yeah, when we had because we had the conversation, we brought it up. I guess this was a couple weeks ago, and I was like, what if it's like a built-in will? And I was like, holy shit, yeah, it's a built-in will. Like legitimately, I'm just gonna send with like you could put terms on this, whether it be a year, 2 years, 16 years down the road, to where you actually know I'm dead at this point. Like I think that's a great concept. It's like the money's coming. Just
Yeah.
I gotta be gone long enough.
Or even like, I don't know, if when you have like 20 wallets and you like bought some coin that you forget
Yeah,
about.
exactly.
This happened to me with Sui. Like I did it, I bought some Sui in January of 2024 or whatever. It wasn't much, but a little bit. And
Yeah.
then, 10x from there. And I was just like going through wallets and I logged into a new one. It went down to like the 10th one on the list. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm glad I forgot about that because I probably would have sold it before that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But even stuff like that, you could just set it up to where it all consolidates to a single wallet
Yeah,
over,
exactly.
if you haven't touched it in 6 months.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm one of those people that will create just random wallets all the time. It's like I hate doing it. If you look at my MetaMask, it'll make you throw up. So yeah, I would be one of those people that would benefit off of, like, because I have wallets on my laptop, I have wallets on my phone, I have wallets on my desktop, and they're all
Yeah.
different. They're not connected. So it's like, but I have one main wallet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if
Right.
I could
Right.
if I could use AutoFi to say, hey, if nothing happens, if I forget about you, send it to the big guy.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. I mean, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, sweet. Let's keep it moving. We talked about the white paper longer than I thought we were going to. So good job on
There we
our
go.
part. Yeah.
There we go.
Cool. So moving on. So GrowFitter, who is another project in our ecosystem, announces a new reality show on Amazon. GrowFitter, the Web2 health app integrated with Supra for an NFT and real-world asset rewards, has announced that they will be featured on the world's first Web3 reality show, Crypto Nights. Part of this announcement includes a giveaway of 1 free year of Amazon Prime sub, plus Amazon vouchers. Be sure to go check out GrowFitter on X for the details. We've had them on the stream multiple times before. And Dan, I'm curious, do you have any mini integrations with other real world asset NFTs on Tradeport? And I have a part 2 of that question, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, we do not really currently. The closest thing we've wanted to find some partners on this and go down that route because that's what we kind of see NFTs being in the future.
Yeah.
The closest thing we have right now is like Delorean. I think I told you about this before, but the Delorean car company.
Yep.
They launched NFTs. Basically, they have this whole like Web3 side of the brand now. They're launching a new supercar in 2026. They started launching build slots as NFTs. I think they did it on another chain. They're transitioning that to Sui. And so basically, like, they're only, I can't remember how many of these cars they're making, a few thousand. But they're, for the reservation for a build slot, they're launching them as NFTs. So what's interesting about that is, like, if you get build slot number 1, that one, like, you're going to be first in line to get the first, this DeLorean. 2, like, that's more valuable than build slot number 3,000.
Absolutely.
So there's a market for these things where the like transfer of ownership is actually feasible to do through the chain. And so, someone could come in and say, that car is $300,000, but build slot number 1 is, if I'm going to get the first one of this, I think there's a premium of, another $300,000 or $600,000 on having the first one of this 3,000 car series or whatever. I'm going to bid $600,000 on this build slot, and someone could just sell that build slot. So that's like one small example, but no, we don't have like a ton of integrations here.
That's super interesting. And also, like, with the idea of build slot 1, I can almost promise you, actually, I will guarantee that these are going to be serial numbered somewhere on that car. Who wouldn't want to open up their driver's side door and it's like number 1, baby?
Yeah.
The first one off the line. Of course, there's going to be premiums to that. And even like in other worlds, like sports cards, I'm a big sport guy. I collect sports cards as well. So they call these bookends. So if you have, let's say, I pull a Paul Skeens 1 of 10 or 1 to 10, but I have number 1 or number 10, those both more hold value because they're bookends, because they're number matches, so on and so forth. So there is a premium, and it's not only in RWAs, but it's also in, like, cars and cards and everything else. So I really, really enjoy that idea, and that's a crazy concept that they're doing. They're not live yet, are they?
They've launched another NFT collection that was like a raffle for a car.
Oh yeah.
But the build slots aren't live yet.
Man, that's gonna be super interesting. I want to know, like, what a floor price is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see. Like,
I'm going to be too. I'm gonna have to go jump down the rabbit hole to see more about that. And speaking on RWA NFTs, what does it take to make an RWA NFT project successful? I think when we're talking about DeLorean, your culture icon, right? It's like and kind of leaning into that culture icon, being from the future. Now you've gotten tokenized builder assets online that you can buy. So let's not just speak about DeLorean. What would take a RWA NFT project to be successful in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, if we kind of look at like actual RWAs, like real world assets, say, a house that's on chain, something like that, or
a Rolex.
Rolex, right? I think it's part of it is figuring out the logistical piece on the back end of like, okay, how are we going to tie this these transactions on chain to actually like real world, say for a car, like a title. For a Rolex, you don't necessarily need that. But then, do we want to have a vaulting service where people we don't have to ship this every time it sells. If someone wants it shipped to them, they can get it shipped, but they can also keep it in the vault.
Right.
There's those aspects that traditional companies in the space will have dealt with. And where like if you're just a Web3 builder, you're gonna have to figure out or partner with one of those companies. And then there's the relationship piece of it too. Like if you're going to be sourcing, say, like financial assets as real world assets, like bonds or packages of real estate portfolios, where it's not necessarily, it doesn't fit into the, I mean, fungible token could represent some of those things, but NFTs also, like in a lot of cases, will represent financial assets. The relationships in the traditional space of kind of like gathering up those assets and pitching investors on them is going to be really important. So there's obviously like the technical components of it, which I honestly don't think that's the big challenge with real world assets, because you have standardized, basically standardized formats that you create NFTs as. It's just tying those to like the business use case and then the actual kind of asset itself.
For sure. I think one of the funnest ways I've seen it done thus far is like, I forget what the platform's called, but you essentially buy like a pack of Pokemon cards, or it's like a rip pack, and then it'll randomize show you like a graded card, but it shows you like your odds or what are going to be in these packages that you pull. And then let's say I pull a first edition Charizard worth $100,000, whatever it may be. Well, I can burn that NFT on the platform itself, and they will send me the card, or I can sell it to the platform itself and they'll send me the money. So it's like kind of a cool concept. But
is that Courtyard?
Yes, there it is. Courtyard.
Okay.
I think they do sport cards too now.
That has been a very successful.
They're doing great, dude.
Yeah, I think they're doing like 100 million a month in volume.
Oh my God. Okay. They're doing way better than I thought.
Yeah. So, I mean, that goes to show you, right? Like if you can figure out how to kind of abstract away the crypto aspect of this, but also make it available to, crypto folks, but abstract that away and just build a cool experience with these assets or collectibles, like there's demand for that. These are big markets.
Huge markets. And I think people don't realize how big like a card market is. We're like, talk about the Pokemon card market or One Piece market. It's like we're talking about hundreds of millions of people, it seems like. I mean, you can't find Pokemon cards in the store anywhere. So it's like add a little bit of Web3 to it. And I think it's from being in the card space for so long. I've been collecting cards my whole life. I go to card shows all the time. There is a 100% direct parallel between Web3 and cards for whatever reason it is. I guess it might be the collection, the collectible aspect of things, but whether they're buying tokens or whether they're buying NFTs, most of the time when you talk to people at card shows, they're in crypto as well. And I don't know, take with that what you will, but I think Courtyard figured it out earlier than us, and they're crushing it because of it.
Well, that's when I collected baseball cards growing up. I was past the golden age of baseball card collecting though. So I got a bunch of worthless stuff. But
junk wax.
Yeah, exactly. But my grandparents owned a gas station. They would just give me like a box of cards every time I went over. And it's all worthless. But I always, like enjoyed opening the packs up. Yes. I think one time I got like a Sammy Sosa jersey card and I was like, yes, $20. But that feeling to me was a direct parallel when I started buying NFTs. I was like, I get this. This is exactly the same feeling I had with baseball cards.
100%.
Some might call it, like a little streak of gambling, but I call it collecting.
Yeah, me too. I call it collecting with no upside. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
All right, cool, man. Let's get into it with some more kind of directed questions towards you and Tradeport. Thank you for riffing with me for a little bit, man. I love just hearing other people's kind of outlook and perspective on things that I'm interested in. So thank you for going down that road with me, my man.
Yeah, for sure. That was fun.
Awesome. So Daniel, again, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on. I had a meeting with your team last week that went incredible. Shout out to Lewis and Mary. They're awesome. I'm big fans of them over there. Give us a rundown though. How did you get into Web3? Kind of what's your backstory and what is Tradeport?
Yeah. And so I have a background in kind of like engineering and traditional finance. I worked at an investment bank for about 4.5 years prior to diving into Tradeport full time. Um, I guess while I was in traditional finance, I started to get interested in crypto. My co-founder Josh had told me about Bitcoin like in 2012. He was like, getting Bitcoin from the faucet and getting the next year like doing tasks on earn.com and earning Bitcoin. He doesn't have access to any of that anymore, but he was OG on like being interested in it. And then he like in 2017 he got into ETH and he was telling me about ETH um and I kind of like, I don't know, it's just like, I don't know, I don't have any money, so I'm not gonna mess with it. And then of course, the bull run of 2017, ETH, ripped, and I was like, okay, maybe I should listen to him a little bit more. So then like 6 months later, he told me about Blockstack, which is now Stacks. And they, we got super interested into that, started following along with that project. That kind of got me like watching a little bit more of crypto. And then 2020 rolled around. So I didn't do much. I just kind of kept it on the radar. COVID, money printing, inflation. I was starting to look around for inflation hedges. It was like real estate, gold, Bitcoin, then went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole on that side of things, like the store value side of things. And, I was kind of like solely focused on Bitcoin, didn't mess with any altcoins. But then NFTs started popping up. I just like DeFi and altcoins weren't like naturally interesting to me.
Right. I'm the same way. So I'm glad that you say that. I was the same
Yeah.
exact way.
Yeah. And so then NFTs popped up and I was like, wait a second, this feels all too familiar. So kind of like what I was talking about with the baseball cards. And so I bought one, or I minted one. I was like, this is really fun. The next one I bought was a Pudgy Penguin after they'd already ripped. So it was like 3 ETH at like $3,000. But I've never do that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I told Josh about it. I was like, hey, I just bought this Pudgy Penguin. He's like, how much did you spend on that? I was like, $9,000. I don't know. And he's like, dude, that is not like you. There's something to this. So we dove in a little bit more. Stacks was developing more at the time. The L1 had rolled out. Some NFT standards popped up on it. No one was really launching NFTs there. There was one collection that had launched, like a CryptoPunks, derivative. And so we kind of got in the NFT bug at that point. He saw what I saw, and we were like, well, let's just like learn how to build a Web3 app. So let's launch an NFT and go end to end, like have our own site to mint it on, write the contract, make the art. So we did just like a pure art project. I think it ended up being like the second or third collection on Stacks. Launched it. It did well. And then we had like an influx of people saying, hey, will you write my contract and, launch this for me? And so we built a little launch pad, a manual launch pad. We just, we stayed up all night for the next like 60 nights, basically, helping like writing contracts and writing smart contracts and, launching these collections. And then, during that time built a secondary marketplace. This was all like while we were still doing our full-time things. So this was just at night on the weekends. And then we started having to hire some people because we couldn't do it all ourselves. And, like 6 months down the road, we're like, well, or not 6 months, 2 months down the road, we're like, well, I guess we should just do this full time. So we jumped off and started doing it full time. Hadn't thought maybe when we started, like we could do something in this space, but hadn't intended for this to be the thing. But we loved it. So, we kept building. We were on Stacks. But then we saw the vision for what NFTs could be in the future. And we're like, let's build out what we think is the infrastructure for this, that could be a good foundational layer for what NFTs could become. And to do that, you need like to build out the marketplace and serve the market as it is now. So that's what we did. We then started from expanding to different chains. And then, the Move ecosystem kind of came on the scene with Aptos and Sui, and we got really interested in Move. We were the most excited about that we've been about, that we were just as excited about that as NFTs and as Bitcoin as an idea, like, or ETH as an idea. Like, there's something very interesting about Move, in that, it kind of solves a lot of the security issues that you would have on ETH or Solidity. And it's more like purpose built for Web3. It's not just, kind of spackled together. So once we got in the Move ecosystem, we're like, this is kind of our home. Let's build out basically just like a digital asset platform, both, NFTs and eventually fungible tokens, in the Move ecosystem, and build out the infrastructure for that, because we think that's the Move is kind of the way of the future.
I mean, so you're reading my mind right now. So my next question for you is, why did you choose Move ecosystem for your marketplace? Like, I know you kind of touched on it there, but what were like the driving factors? Are you being like, you kind of said like, I was really excited just about Move in general. So what were the reasons to you say like, let's just go all in on Move?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we've always looked at is like, where are the developers going? It's usually a long lead time between like when developers get to an ecosystem and start building there,
Yep.
to when, you start seeing some traction in the ecosystem. But the growth in the Move ecosystem as far as developers goes was like initially impressively strong, and then the traction has remained there, and Move developer, numbers are just growing really quickly. So that was really attractive to us. I mean, obviously we have our own opinion, like I said, with Move, of why we liked it, but we were seeing other developers really liked it as well and were interested in it. And that to us is a signal like, okay, it's not just us, other developers see the potential here. And we're willing to take the bet that, that these developers that are coming on board are seeing what we're seeing, and that even if it takes a long time to play out, Move does seem like, if traditional companies are going to come on chain, it does seem like kind of the long-term winner in that.
Couldn't agree with you more. Obviously, do your own research, not financial advice. But I cannot agree with
We're just
you.
talking about a framework and
Exactly.
like, it's
Two friends having a
even,
conversation.
yeah.
It's cool. So moving on, how far along are you in your integration with Supra, and how's the journey been so far?
It's been great. Supra was super smooth to integrate with. So we have rolled out our marketplace on Supra.
Yep.
We have rolled out an edition launchpad on Supra, so people can go launch NFT editions. And we also have the ability for people to launch PFP NFT collections as well. We kind of like will walk you through that process,
Right.
if people want to do that. But it's a full-fledged marketplace that we rolled out, over the past. I guess we kind of like rolled it out quietly, maybe a month and a half or so ago. But yeah, now it's like kind of fully rolled out, and we're starting to make a little bit of noise about it. But it's been great, and it also seems like maybe it's a group of users that it seems like the super users are super kind of diehard Supra, and there's not a ton of crossover with our existing user base, which I think is really cool, to see and just be able to kind of reach a whole new audience of people. But yeah, we definitely have more planned. Like I said, we plan really for it to be a digital asset platform and not just an NFT platform.
Okay.
So, you can kind of see this on some of the other chains we're on, but we have some fungible token functionality. More and more of that will come as well, just because we see, like, those two are pretty integral in the future obviously now like they're integral in the space, but like in the future for assets on chain, both fungible tokens and NFTs will be necessary.
Dope. I love that. And y'all are using the new standard, right?
We are.
Cool. And actually, this kind of brings me into a great conversation, or a great. I would love your insight here. So we have people in our company that haven't really been around NFTs at all. So Tradeport's on the new standard. Can you kind of give just like a quick rundown of the old and new standard and why y'all are using the new standard on Tradeport?
Yeah, honestly, on the technical side of it, I wouldn't be able to give you like the
no, just
distinctions between them.
yeah, just very flat layer.
Yeah, I mean, so the new standard was actually developed on like Aptos prior to this. So there, and most Aptos projects have, you know, that launched after that new standard came about, transitioned to this or used the new standard. So all the old collections that were on the old standard had a hard time being integrated into, you know, applications that were building or came about kind of after the new standard came about. And it's more purpose built for NFTs. It had a little more thought put into it. I think the old standard was just like, you know, when Aptos first came out, it was just kind of like, oh, this is, you know, these are NFTs. We'll just do this. And then the new standard was like, okay, let's actually help make a distinction between, you know, fungible tokens and NFTs, and really think about how NFTs should be represented. So yeah, in our opinion, like the new standard is just better and more intentional. And so that's why we've stuck to that. Like any projects that launch on us will be on the new standard. And we have seen in the past, like on Sweep, for example, even on Stacks back in the day, standards, you know, kind of change. And when people aren't willing to use the new standards, especially when they're kind of like widely accepted, it makes it really difficult for people to integrate them. Yeah. So then they end up kind of like losing some visibility because of that. And it also just like bifurcates the ecosystem. So when you have like 5 different standards, builders are just like, well, I'll integrate these standards, but not these, because it's just too much of a pain. Yeah, so we love it when there's like an accepted standard on a chain.
Yes.
And it's helpful for everyone involved.
Yeah, I could only imagine so, especially on your end.
Yeah.
So speaking of kind of Supra and I guess our tech stack, are there any things in particular that your team have found interesting? Like maybe things that aren't released now, but what we're able to do in the future? Is that one of the reasons that, you know, y'all wanted to work with Supra moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we did like about it in the beginning was, and this isn't necessarily part of the differentiator piece on your question there, but you know, using the Aptos VM was like super simple to work with, very easy to integrate. I think that you know, builders will really appreciate that. We appreciated it. So I think that was a good move. But then, yeah, I mean, the like AutoFi is super interesting. It was pretty obvious to us as we started looking into the team, or looking into the chain, that the team was you know, very technical and was going to innovate on top of just like what was kind of like already in the Move ecosystem. So we didn't have like a, you know, a specific thing there where we're like, oh, it's because of this reason, but having the Aptos VM, but a very technical team behind it, I think really it's kind of best of both worlds, in that you can enable, or that it's easy to onboard, but AutoFi is an example of this. Like, you guys are going to innovate on top of that.
Yeah, I like that. So you kind of mentioned this earlier, to where like that's the reason y'all were so focused on Move, is because like you're seeing it before the others are. It's like you understand the purpose of what it is, and it's going to take some time. This is anything in Web3, especially blockchain speaking, technical speaking as well. So maybe that kind of plays in that too, right? You're like looking forward a little bit to what will be possible with Supra. So that's super interesting.
Right.
Cool. So let's get into the fun part of this conversation. I'm a big NFT guy. I always have been a big NFT guy. I got into the NFT space in 2017. I've been here ever since. I'm still daily on the NFT grind. Pay attention to projects on lots of multiple chains. I would love to just kind of get into the nitty gritty with you here. So let's first talk about Tradeport as a design. What NFT marketplace was a real inspiration for you guys moving forward? Obviously, there's multiple. We have for the two biggest ones I think right now are probably Magic Eden and OpenSea. But obviously, those are probably obvious answers for inspiration. But like, what were the ones that you took a lot of knowledge and information from when you were trying to build your own?
Yeah, I mean, really, when we started building the what we took inspiration from, we had started kind of doing this prior, but the aggregators like weren't really on the scene yet. People weren't aggregating NFTs, right? Like if you listed it on OpenSea, it was listed on OpenSea. If you listed it elsewhere, it was listed elsewhere.
Yep.
And it was pretty bifurcated. So we realized when we started our marketplace, oh, we could actually like hook into these other listings on other marketplaces and let people buy them on our marketplace. So it was like, because we were trying to solve the classic marketplace problem, right? Like
Yep.
users and supply. And then we realized that we're like, oh, well, we solved supply. Now we just have to get the users. And that us solving the supply issue helped us get users. So we thought we were on the right path there. And then we saw, like, I think it was in January of 2022. Man, I'm not going to be able to remember the name right now, but OpenSea bought an aggregator. There was another aggregator that came on the scene, and they were really like had super slick user interfaces. They were really good. And those were the ones that we took the most inspiration from early on, was just like, hey, we want to make this obviously accessible for newer users, but really gear it towards like allowing power users to kind of have everything they would want. So aggregate all the listings, all the bids from all the different marketplaces on a chain. Give them the analytics they would want to see, which all of this has kind of become standard on marketplaces now, but at the time it wasn't. Like you didn't really have that on OpenSea or Magic Eden.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
So those, I don't know why I can't recall the names of the aggregators at this point, but
I'm trying to think of the marketplace that ruined the NFT market in 2021.
Blur.
I want to punch him in the face still. Every time, dude, I get chills every time I hear it. Because I mean, let's be real. That when they were rewarding people for just bids and stuff and selling and buying, and so it eventually just became this huge dump sesh, right? So,
right.
Yes, I remember Blair lost a lot of money on Blair.
Jim and Genie were the ones.
Jim and Genie.
OpenSea bought Jim. Uniswap bought Genie. That's why I couldn't remember the names. It's like they integrated them, but yeah, those were the ones that we took a lot of inspiration on as we really started like revamping our marketplace after the initial push.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And also it was super interesting to like, I remember when OpenSea was only an Ethereum marketplace. Legitimately, you could only buy NFTs that were released on Ethereum. And now it's like, I think they have, I don't even know how many chains now, but yeah, it's cool to see that like y'all were on the front side of that even before them. And obviously smaller marketplace, not as much market volume or eyes on y'all, but I support builders. So to know that y'all are building is a green flag for me. I love to hear that from y'all. And let's talk NFTs. What is the future of NFTs in your opinion? And we did kind of talk about RWAs, which I think you kind of hinted at is like, that's where you see them going. But what is the future of NFTs in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think the long-term future in our minds has kind of remained the same. Of NFTs are going to represent unique real-world items, right? Like your deed to your house is unique. An NFT should represent that on chain. Title to your car is unique, and NFTs should represent that. Loans are unique. NFTs should represent those types of assets. So I think if we really do get to a world where, which I think that's where we're going, where these transactions that are important to have the provenance of and a record of, and a unified standard of, then basically any unique asset or unique record, real world record should be an NFT, and then things that are fungible should be fungible tokens, right? So, like shares of a company should be fungible tokens, or whatever else it may be in that scenario. So I think that's like the long-term future. Obviously, us in the space, it's easy to think that's going to happen a lot sooner than
Yeah,
it
of
is.
course.
It's probably like when we started, we're like, oh, by 2025, we'll start to see a lot of this stuff happening. No, it's ways off. We've come to terms with that reality that it's probably like, let's just triple the time that we think this stuff is going to happen, and maybe we'll be somewhat close.
Right.
But the short-term future, we're already seeing it with the collectibles marketplaces.
Yeah.
I think there's just going to be more of that happening, where you start to see like, oh, we can transfer ownership of these valuable assets in a much more seamless way if we have NFTs representing them. So I think that's interesting. And then I think you and I were talking about really short term, NFTs have kind of gotten fun again.
I'm telling you.
It's really fun, and people have started to build real communities around NFTs. And what we're seeing now that's different than the big hype cycle is projects of all sorts, like a DeFi project or a wallet or whatever else. They're launching NFT collections, and people are excited about that. Like if you did that in 2021, people would have been like, oh, you're just extracting money or whatever. But now it's like they launch a cheap collection, their core community can get in on it, their like dedicated users can get on it. It represents that they are, basically like one of the few thousand core community members of this project, and they, often incentivize it in different ways. But I've seen that be very successful in the past like 12 months on different chains. I think we'll continue to see more of that, where people just kind of like build a core community around NFTs, and you don't have to be an NFT project to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope so. Like I said, the
Yeah.
feeling of having NFTs being back, it's like that's what brought me into crypto, and having any type of excitement. It's like the minting, the waiting for reveal, to checking your rarity, to seeing if you got a rare one. It's like all of these aspects play into like the human brain of like, that was fun. I had a great time doing that. And I think what it does is you build this community of other people that enjoy that flair of having fun, and then you have a PFP that looks like this other person's, and now y'all are a part of a community that builds this relationship. And I think when NFTs really blew up and made the most sense is during COVID. You couldn't go see your friends, you couldn't go to a bar to have a drink with anybody. It was like, so now these communities were establishing online based off of a profile picture, and people were really creating an identity around this profile picture and around this community. And that's why you see these projects that kind of withstood the tough times that still have these communities as they do. We're talking Bored Apes, we're talking CryptoPunks, we're talking Pudgies, Quirklings even. It still has a very strong community. So yeah, could not agree more. And so let's keep kind of on the NFT train here. And I know I've mentioned lots of these projects, but what projects in your opinion are like the real leaders in the NFT space globally?
Globally, I mean, I know we keep talking about Pudgy Penguins.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They certainly are. I think, Punks is an obvious one.
Yeah. And we have Bored Ape, who is obviously like going to be the ones that always comes to talk about.
Right.
Yuga Labs in general, really.
Yeah. So I think, those are kind of the big ones. I think on Solana, you had Mad Lads. I think, Clanosaurs is really.
Dude, they were an Ethereum project, if I remember correctly.
I think they launched on Solana right after FTX.
Wait, maybe they had an Ethereum project.
Maybe so. I don't know
early days. Yeah,
Yeah.
either way,
And I mean, the IP they've created is
dude.
so cool, and they're really building like a worldwide brand with it as
Yep.
well. I think they're certainly a leader in the space, and like something to model after if you have a really strong IP like they do. So like those are kind of like the ones that come to mind initially. But yeah, there's uh, it's amazing that some of these have kind of stood the test of time and really what they've evolved into.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to kind of go on this a little bit longer, and it's like, I mean, let's think of projects like Doodles too. I,
Yeah,
I went to I went to McDonald's the other day. They had a Doodles coffee cup. I was like,
no
what the
way.
hell? Yeah, legitimately. So my coworker Hoyt has a Doodle. I messaged him. I said, did you know that Doodles has coffee cups at McDonald's? But it's like that's a Web3 brand that started as an NFT project, and now they're working with McDonald's to have collaborations. It's like the if you can develop a real community that has real push behind it, like your options are limitless. Obviously, a little bit different times. It was a lot easier to get money back then than it was now to start an NFT project. But I love how these projects that released 7, 8 years ago are still kind of carrying the torch and saying like, no, this is possible outside of Web3. We're taking it back and forth and doing both. And then that also brings me into the questions of NFT projects that were doing really well that took millions of dollars in funding and then died. Like for the ones that come to mind are like Invisible Friends, which was like my
Yeah,
real first project to get into Ethereum. I minted one for $700, sold it for $35,000. I've talked about this on the show before, but it's like that. When you see projects like this, they get hundreds of $1 millions in funding, collaborations with Kith, New Balance, all these huge worldwide brands, and then they die. What happens? What makes an NFT project successful, especially when you start involving RWAs? Because Invisible Friends did a collaboration with Kith. You got to mint a Kith friend, and then you could burn that Kith friend, and then you would get like it was a pair of shoes, it was a hoodie, it was a jacket, so on and so forth. So, like, what makes this successful?
yeah. What's interesting is one other example that I was involved with, or not involved with, but bought Proof. I
Me
minted
too.
Proof
Me too.
Fest.
Me
Man, and that
too.
was like the best community.
Dude, they're so
Uh,
strong.
it was amazing, and like True, just like they loved the space, they loved the art. You had just like the OGs of the space in there, in that community. And I actually think they did okay with Moonbirds. Like obviously
They were
Moonbirds
great off the
blew
off the
up,
rip. Yeah,
but
dude.
the Moonbirds community was even like very solid off the rep.
Yep.
And then Ryan
You,
Carson, they started taking funding, and um, it's like they didn't need to take the funding anyways,
no.
and they would have had like years and years and years of runway.
Well,
They could
then
have built something really cool, and then just yeah,
the
didn't fulfill.
introduction the introduction of the CCO was like the worst idea
So
ever.
bad.
What were you
Yeah,
doing? Y'all's
yeah,
fork was legitimately like 25 Ethereum, and then you introduce that and it goes to 5 overnight. It's like, oh my God, I literally could not believe it would have happened. And I know the
yeah,
community couldn't believe it would have happened. But is it a Ryan Carson curse? I don't know.
yeah,
It's not my place to say.
yeah. There's a correlation there,
That's what I'm
but
saying.
also, yeah, I was disappointed with how that all played out. It was, it was just. I think back to your question, what happens is people just kind of they when they bring too much money in, and this is probably like in general in business, um, you really lose sight of what you're building, the real strategy behind it, and you kind of just try to do a lot of different things. You have a lot of money on the balance sheet, you start
Yeah.
hiring a bunch of people. You're not organized, like people start making decisions that are probably not the best decisions instead of just taking like a slow long-term approach.
Yeah.
Um, and like it doesn't feel as organic to the community too, right? Like if you go raise $100 million for an NFT project after you already sold, $60 million worth of NFTs or something, it's like, well, what do you? Are you just pocketing the
Yeah. What do you
the, the
need it
money
at this
from?
point for?
Yeah. So I think that it just loses a lot of authenticity, and with NFTs, especially then, but even now. there's a big part of it is like you're building an authentic community. If you lose that feeling, then there's not much prospect for the NFTs in the long term.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I mean, I could sit here and talk about this for 2 hours. I
Yeah,
legitimately
same.
could sit here and just talk about it.
I could, since you were back in Proof back in the day, you and I could riff on that for a while.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I check every so often just to, my heart hurts a little bit more.
Yeah.
If you were to give any advice to like NFT projects or founders and creators after this conversation that we're having to make it successful, what would be like your 3 big go-tos? It's like, I've had an NFT project. I've been in NFT projects for a long time. And it's like, obviously you see things that work and you see things that fail. And then there's a very fine line of things that fail all the time, but you see projects doing it, whether it be a burn mechanism or whether it be adding new art. Like what are the 3 things that you're telling an NFT project founder that would help them be successful in this space?
I mean, one thing is, and these are pretty tactical. So I'm not the most creative person. I'm more tactical, but that's kind of the viewpoint that I look at these things through. So one thing is like find the right size for the ecosystem you're in. Some people try to launch a 10,000 piece collection in Sui or something like that's probably not going to work. It's too many pieces for the size of ecosystem that it is, and like for you to be able to maintain real authentic relationships with that community. So find the right size, like 222 to 3333, like 2,000 to 3,000 pieces are great size collections for move ecosystems, and they're like a fun size of community to kind of like interact with, right? Like maybe there's 800 or 1,000 or 1,200 holders amongst those NFTs, and that's a really fun size. Like you can know most of the active people, then you can have real relationships with them. It's not like you're managing 4,000 different people, and it starts to become something where you can't really like know the people. So find the right size community. 2 is I mean, I guess like just pick a vibe that resonates with you. Like find whatever your personality is. Like if you're more cypherpunky or whatever, like go with a vibe like that and find your community in that. So like an example of this is a collection on I don't mean to reference other chains, but a collection on Sui. A lot of people have done like the cute NFTs because they've seen Pudgy Penguins do well with that. I think they're great. I love the cute investment thesis. I think it makes sense. It's appealing to a lot of people. But like this other collection, they're guys that grew up in the 90s and kind of were into skating and just kind of like love streetwear and all of that. So they built a collection that was like that vibe, and it was different than other things that were on the market, and people loved it. Like the people who like that vibe really vibed with that, and they're able to connect with their community like much more authentically that way. Third, real tactical is like I love the collections that launch with a really low mint price or free mint. Low mint price I think is makes sense. Like that's probably go that route instead of free, just so you get some capital on the mint that you can
Especially for
build
art
with
and stuff. Like you put time into this.
Yeah, you actually do put time into it. So like charge something, but I love to see the communities that launch at like $5-10 and or $20 even, and then the NFT runs up to like $200 $300 because we're talking this cycle terms, not last cycle terms
Well,
where
yeah,
you
I was
launch.
about to say, you want to talk about Goblin Town?
Yeah. Jeez. I mean, that was incredible. Yeah. Free mint to well, I don't remember what it got.
$9,000.
Jeez.
Dude, I had 3. I sold them for $200 each.
No way.
Swear. I minted a 3-pack because you can mint them at 3 at a time, and I was like, okay, well, let me mint them up before they sell out. They got to 200 each. I was like, dude, what the fuck? All they do is sit on Twitter for 8 hours a day and gargle. Do you remember
gargle.
this?
Yes, I remember.
like goblin talking. It was
Yeah.
crazy. And I was
It's
like, okay,
wild.
$200 is the max. There's no way these go any higher. I woke up the next day, it was 800, then it was 1600, 2K. I was like, I cannot believe I fumbled the bag that large. But hey, you live and you learn. If I was an investor, I'm not investing in gargling goblins. And I think they were acquired by Yugo, which I think is,
Yeah.
which is even crazier to talk about.
Wild.
Awesome. Well, I
Wild what can
know
happen in space.
it really is wild what can happen in space. I know I'm a little over time right now, but I have some questions that I do want to ask with you that I think are just super fun discussing dynamic NFTs. Do you still have a little bit of time for me?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Sure.
Love it. So let's hop right in here. So dynamic NFTs, I think this is what's really making NFTs fun again, maybe the possibilities of what is going to be able to be done. I've talked about this at length of what I would do or what I would change in an NFT project that I release, but give me your takes on dynamic NFTs, like just very black and white. What are your thoughts behind dynamic NFTs and what they're going to be changing?
Yeah. Dynamic NFTs are obviously like a huge upgrade to just what we know as NFTs. It allows a lot of gamification. I mean, it enables really like crypto games to leverage NFTs too. Because
Yep.
like, what's the point in a static NFT in a game? Like that's
Nothing.
dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing.
So being able to like upgrade your NFT based on experience points that you have,
Yep.
or like being able to add different items to your NFT. I know you could kind of do that before, where you could have an NFT that holds NFTs, and there was a standard for that on ETH, but this is like much more built in, so it makes a lot more sense. And then it also can like it can show your even outside of a game, right? Like if you're a community member that has held your NFT since mint, like maybe your NFT upgrades over time because of that.
Your
You have
background changes, your item rarities get higher, whatever it may be.
right,
Yeah,
right. So I think it just allows a lot more flexibility from the creators to um, keep people engaged and
absolutely.
make it more fun for people. And
Yeah.
that goes for like gaming NFTs or just regular NFTs.
For sure. So one of the things that like I think is the most simple way when I explain dynamic NFTs to people, this is always the way I do it. I'm like, okay, imagine an NFT that you minted. So let's talk about your Pudgy Penguin right now. Okay, well, where you are in, let's say you're in Chicago, it's sunny, it's bright outside, there's no rain. Your background on your Pudgy Penguin just shows a nice sunny day outside because it's attached via Oracle data where you are in your IP address. So for me, I'm in Houston. It's shitting rain right now. It's thunderstorms, everything. My NFT has a background that shows that it's raining right now. It's like, so when you're scrolling through let's say the marketplace of NFTs, every single one of these NFTs has a different background, respectively, where they are in the world. It's like you can legitimately use Oracle data, whether it be time of day. Do you want to show it being night or day? Whether you want to show it being weather patterns. All this is possible. And like, I think that's a really fun concept to be able to build into an NFT project, being like, hey, your NFT is now a part of you in your daily life. It's not just like, oh, I got a green background. That's it forever. That's all I have. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from
Yeah.
there because
Yeah. Or like, I mean, that makes total sense. I mean, even kind of going back to the like if you minted example, like having traits change based on how long you've held, or
yep.
like if you've held since mint, because even outside of just like some sort of reputation you may gain from that, people may want to like specifically connect with those people, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
what if you could get a group of you know the people that originally minted CryptoPunks, or originally minted Pudgy Penguins, that are still holding them, and like you want to do some sort of collaboration with them, or reward them with some incentives or something. Like I think there's super interesting mechanics there.
Yeah, I do too. And also,
Obviously you can get that data on chain, but it's not.
yeah,
Yeah.
just the concept of being able to continuously upgrade or trait variants. Like let's say for Christmas this year, my NFT project is going to be releasing a, uh, a Santa outfit and a Santa hat, but it's themed and it will only be here for a limited time. So you can put it under your NFT, but once this time frame is gone, it's gone forever. So essentially you're giving a reason for people to come back, celebrate holidays, whatever it may be. It's like you're actually getting people to engage physically with this NFT when before this was not so much a thing. You know what I mean? Like before, like you mentioned you mint an NFT, that NFT is your NFT forever, and you could expect it to never change. Which I think that the even the concept of dynamic NFTs excites anybody that's ever purchased an NFT, whether it been 5 years ago or yesterday.
For
Um,
sure.
and kind of speaking on excitement, and I know we've talked about this, but like, what would be the thing that excites you the most about dynamic NFTs? Would it just be the option to just change traits or upgrade traits or variations as a whole?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, generally, like
Yeah,
dynamic NFTs actually enable the future use cases that we've talked about, right? Like, say a loan that someone has,
yes.
if it's an NFT, maybe it's a variable rate loan. Well, like, what would happen if it was a static NFT and it's a variable rate? That wouldn't really work. So,
Exactly.
you can update the traits for that, or like a deed to a house, right? You want to be able to update it if something changes there. Then like say the house gets blown away in a tornado or something. I don't know exactly how the titles or deeds read, but the title will probably have something about the structure on there, or if it's just land. And so you want to be able to like reflect those changes that happen. Or like a title to a car, right? Like once it's been in a wreck, it has a different title than it did before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So being able to update that actually enables the real world use cases that we've talked about.
Yeah, I love that. Even like contracts and stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like a changeable contract over time. It's like, what if I have an NFL contract and my stipulations change every year? It's like I want to be able to show that. It's like now
right.
I'm guaranteed 1.3 when I was guaranteed 1.2. If it was a static image, it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I love that idea there. So as an NFT platform, which Tradeport is, what are some things Tradeport is excited about, like with the unlocking of dynamic NFTs? Is it just the onboarding of new creators that have the opportunity to do so?
Yeah, I think it's where we'll see. We've been talking about crypto gaming for years
Yeah.
now, and again, it's one of those things that in 2021 we're like, oh, we'll see a lot of this come online in 2023. Yeah, no. So so uh, I think now we'll actually see a lot of that stuff start to, at least people start to experiment with it. Maybe we don't get AAA gaming studios like launching things left and right, but
Yeah,
I think we'll be able to see a lot of people experimenting with this with dynamic NFTs, and those just being built into standards and into how the NFTs operate on a chain. So I think it'll just bring more people in, and then once you have like one killer use case for that, or
exactly.
one killer example of that, other builders will be like, oh, okay, I see this now.
Even if they're established builders on a different chain, like
Yeah,
if I was let's say that I released a project on Ethereum in 2021, and now I'm not even really in the NFT space, but my project's still alive. I have a strong community. It's like I'm like, wait a minute, I can do everything that I've wanted to do beforehand on a different chain, and it's actually available for me to do now. I think it would just maybe drive me to create something for fun. Like it doesn't have to
right.
be my main project, but I want to go test the waters, and that's what's going to drive incentives of people to come over in general. And kind of speaking on unique NFTs, and you've been around the space for a long time. What's the most unique NFT like you've seen, and whether it be have attached to RWA or just in general? What's like one of the most unique NFT experiences you've been a part of? Because I have a lot of them.
That's a good question. Trying to think.
You-
Oh, this is way back in the day, uh, and maybe it doesn't sound as unique as it was.
right,
Um,
different times, okay, people, different times.
Different times. When we were on Stacks, which is like a Bitcoin, basically L2 sidechain thing, it was like 10-minute block times. There was a team, kind of the biggest NFT project on the chain was called Megapont. There were these awesome like pixelated apes. Still like my favorite NFT I've ever owned to date, as far as just like the art goes. They're
Yep.
awesome. But they released like a robot collection, and so you had like a base robot you would get, and then you could buy little attachments for it. And then you could go into their like robot creator, and you could put these little attachments on there. And at the time, that was quite the feat because you had 10-minute block times for every transaction you were signing. You were having to figure out how to tie all this together and just like use IPFS to update the images. And well, actually like create like new IPFS hashes to update the images and sync all of that. So I know it doesn't sound like super unique, but it was like a very unique experience. And being able to go into like the robot builder page and build it out, it kind of gave me the vision for, okay, like when the tech is actually ready and you're on an appropriate chain to do so, not one that has 10-minute block times. Yeah, you can go in and just like have all these different NFTs that create a new NFT in a game.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I was trying to think of the ones that like for me, and I guess it wasn't even that long ago. It was more recent. So I forget even what the project was called, but every time an NFT was minted, sold, or bought, and it would burn a random NFT in the collection. So it's like if you bought a rare, it's like for, let's say, I think the floor was like 0.25. You bought a rare for 0.25, and then somebody minted one that was still open, and your rare is now burned, and it's nothing. And so it was this concept. Yeah, it was like this idea of like, how do you get in and mint and try to sell your rare, because there was rarities attached. It's like they had different traits, but it was a really fun concept of like, I mean, it was a gambling.
Yeah,
really.
the ERC 404s were kind of like that, and we're probably up there in like the most interesting ones I've played around with.
Yeah.
But it was like where you could basically like tokenize your NFT, like take it to a fungible token.
Yep.
And you would do that, and then once you had enough tokens, if you had enough tokens and you wanted to convert back to a 404, you could.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just like one. I can't remember. Maybe it was one token per piece. But when you converted back, you had burned your old NFT, and it mints a new one. And you're re-rolling. Like you could get a rare one. So I think that was interesting. I think the concept of being able to go from NFT to fungible token is super interesting. I don't know if that was like the best model for it, but it was an interesting attempt.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of abstract, how we talked about earlier, so I'm a part of a project called Bearish on Abstract. They're like a PFP based collection, but they have a lot of builders from Ethereum projects like Scotty and Tolley, who own the Drip application. I mean, they are geniuses. So whenever they minted out Bearish, people were looking in their abstract wallets and were seeing like 10K Burr attached. So they released it in our ERC 404, but they didn't tell anybody that there were going to be tokens attached. People started figuring out, and they're like, yes, we didn't want to say anything up front, but this is an ERC 404, and there will be some utility with the tokens down the road, but they haven't really touched on it yet. They launched in February, so it's been about 3 months now. They're still doing great. They still build. They're one of the better projects on Abstract. I fully support them. But yeah, I love seeing people kind of implement cool ways of contracts into NFT projects, and that's one way to do it, especially with how popular tokens are now. You know what I mean? Like I think more popular than NFTs at the moment, but
for sure,
nor here nor there. I am taking you over, so I actually am just going to jump into our hot seat questions. So I ask the same questions every week to people, and they're really short formatted. Just answer them as quick as you want. Some are timed, or one is timed, so you will have. I will pull out a timer on this, so you'll have to give it to me within a slotted time. So let's hop into these quick fire questions, and then we'll close this out. I've already taken you 18 minutes over, so let's start with, what is your worst crypto horror story? And this could be your story or a friend's story, but I would prefer something from you.
Something from me. I mean, the worst is probably round tripping proof and Moonbirds. Like just like almost, I'm not fully round tripped. Like if you look at the start to finish, it was still great. But if you look at the peak to the bottom, or peak to finish, yeah, it's pretty miserable to think about. I mean, dude, I got over it, but it took me a while to get over.
And you know, it's so funny, and I bring this up every sup, because we ask this question every week. When I ask that question, you will see people's faces like immediately change. Like, oof.
Yeah.
Because everybody has that story, especially if you've been around long enough. It's like you've had enough losses to be like, damn, kind of forgot about it.
Yeah. I think the worst part about that one is like, I told my dad what they were worth when it got to the peak.
And he told you to sell it?
And he said, he's like, you need to sell that. And I was like, but taxes and whatever else. And now having to like, just like look him in the eyes when we talk about that again. And it's
Eat
like,
crow.
he's like, I just know he's like, you're so dumb. All you had to do was click a button.
Dude, yeah, and we've all been there. We've all
Yeah.
been there. So you touched on this earlier. What did you do before crypto?
So I worked at an investment bank. Originally did like stock research, equity research, more on the traditional finance side of things, but transitioned into a role where we called it like data strategy. So we basically gathered up alternative data from like websites and any other source we could find, and tried to structure it and create predictions on what would happen with the stocks we covered. So
Wow.
like an example is during COVID, we didn't know if we could, I guess there wasn't a very reliable source to see like when Disney World was coming back online in China. Like obviously like you could ask around in the US and you would know it's pretty reliable, but we had no way of knowing that in China. But we figured out on the app we could see the wait times on the lines and stuff. So we just tracked wait times. And we were able to like see when, Disney World was coming back online, or like, car dealerships when they, with all their inventory, we just tracked that every day, and we could predict like within 1% how many cars they would sell per year or per quarter.
That's kind of crazy to even think about. And I also love seeing people that come from traditional finance that are in Web3 full time, because a lot of traditional finance bros will tell you like, I'm not really interested in that, or at least in my experience. So I love to see you've made the transition.
Yeah, I always say traditional finance is like what led me into crypto. It's like I got to see the inside of the traditional finance system. I was like, I see why we have crypto.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I guess we kind of answered this, but if crypto crashes tomorrow, no mas, finito, no more crypto, what do you do?
What
Plan
do
B. Yeah, your plan B.
This is probably funny, but like I have this obsession with like just small local businesses.
Okay, me too.
So I would probably, my wife and I run like a local newsletter, local email newsletter on the side. That's like gotten pretty popular in our region. So people read it for like things to do every day and
Yeah.
what's going on in the area. We actually have that in like 3 different cities. And then my wife runs like a home cleaning business.
So plan B is already lined out, brother.
Yeah, she'll just keep running that business, and I'll do the newsletter, I guess. But I would probably like dive more into that world.
Yeah, for sure. I always think my wife restores vintage furniture. That's what she does. I worked at Nike before I worked at Supra, so I was in fashion. But if crypto went away forever, I'm going the food truck route, baby.
There you go.
I'm going food truck route. And
Do you cook a lot?
So I'm a home cook. I cook 5 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah, big
Wow.
home cook, steak, tacos. I'm from South Texas, Houston, so
Okay.
it's a lot of Mexican inspired foods. But yeah, so if I were doing anything else out of crypto, I'm opening a food truck for sure.
There you go. That's awesome.
You got to have something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just in case.
Yeah, just in case. All right, cool. Next hot seat question: if there was one person in crypto that you could have dinner with and ask one question to, who would it be?
Kobe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Kobe for sure.
Question.
Question. I don't know. I can't think of a specific question off the top of my head. I just would want to hear his like full story.
Yeah. I think
I've always respected him as like he's been in the space since basically the beginning, and then and just like has maintained his integrity throughout too.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It seems genuine. Like I don't know him, but I feel like he's like I would have a beer with that guy, and I'd probably have a great time having that beer. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
sure.
I totally agree there. All right, next one. This will be our last one before I ask an audience question. Then we'll do wrap ups, and I'll get you out of here. I'm so sorry that I've taken. I've had a great conversation with you, man. So
this is great.
Awesome. All right. So my next question is, and I ask everybody this: if you had to explain Web3 to your grandma in 10 seconds, can you do it?
The funny thing is I've tried to explain it to my
Me too.
my wife's grandma, so I'm trying to not explain it that way.
And before you explain, if you're going to explain it, tell me before you do, because I'm going to time you.
Okay. Man, that is tough. 10
Everybody,
seconds.
everybody every week has the same reaction. It's like, oof, like how long do I have to like think about this?
Yeah.
It's a fair question.
Yeah. I would probably say, okay.
Are we ready? Hold on.
Okay.
Whenever you talk, I'm going to just press start.
Ready. Crypto is an alternative to the financial system where you don't depend on any banks or intermediaries.
Sorry, Grandma, you didn't get the bank part.
Nope. She's
like,
whatever. Yeah, whatever.
She has no idea.
I was too slow.
Dude, I was the same way. I think I explained it like, you own all of your money and the bank doesn't own any of it.
Yeah.
I got it out.
She's like, I already got cash in my mattress. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's in our walls. What are you talking about? I don't need a crypto wallet for that.
I don't have a bank anyways.
That's so funny. All right, man. This has been so much fun. I know I've taken you over 25 minutes. I do want to get one audience question out, if I could ask you, if that's cool. And then we'll do wrap-ups and I'll get you out of here if that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Sweet. Awesome. So I think the one question that I saw come up was from Chicken Wings Original. He's like, what's one underrated use case for NFTs that you think we'll see explode on chains like Supra in the next year? And that's a very in-depth question. When I saw it, I was like, whoa, he's thinking deep. And I like that.
Yeah. Underrated use case, I think, is like ownership of a project, I don't know if we'll see it explode on Supra or any other chain, but an underrated use case that I've been seeing more and more of is ownership to the rights to fees on something as an NFT. So like in DeFi, LP positions are represented as NFTs, right?
Yeah.
And you basically have to burn that NFT to get your fees back. But what I could foresee happening is, and like on not Pump Fund, but one of the other Solana launchpads, the creator gets an NFT that represents his fee rights to the token whenever trades happen, because they have a different model than Pump Fund where you get fees from the like trades on the token, ongoing fees. And that, so technically, like, say the token pumps and he's like, I kind of want to like sell my rights to these fees. He could go list that NFT, and someone could go, say it's like a fart coin dev and back in the day, and like he could have listed the rights to that NFT, or that he could have listed that NFT and someone bought it and they would get the fees for the ongoing. Fartcoin wasn't on this launchpad, but I think we'll see more and more of that. And I think like even for NFT projects, I think it'd be interesting to give the creator an NFT that the fees go to, or the fees go to whoever's holding that NFT.
It's almost like the rights of music that you're selling off.
Right.
Ooh, crazy.
Yeah. And so if you decided you wanted to transition to ownership to, say, the community, you could like list it and the community could buy it from you.
Yeah. Or just somebody else that's wanted to take over the project. It's like, hey, I'll list it for 10 Ethereum right now, and this project is now yours. You have full control.
Right. Or you could, and like people could just bid on it. Say you are the creaper and you don't necessarily want to sell, but someone bids like 500 grand on it, and you're like, well, okay, yeah. maybe it would be better in other hands.
I mean, maybe I start my food truck.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know I mean? That's enough for a food truck.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, I think that'll be super interesting.
Yeah, I love that. And also, so we had one more question that I did want to address. It says it's from Haim Martin dude. It says, Chase, forget merch, win dinner whenever you're paying. All right, that's the question, baby. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on here today. I literally had a blast with you. I do just have a couple more things I want to touch up next. First, the first thing is the early mover NFT that is now live on Tradeport. We're over 700 minted within I think since Friday of last week. I do have an announcement within the Discord as well. When you do mint this early mover NFT, you'll be able to go into our Discord, verify your role, and you'll be able to earn 5 extra zips a day. What zips are is our in-Discord currency. You gain these from doing quests and side quests within our Discord. And what you'll be able to use these for is raffles, buying merch, buying NFTs, buying a car. Okay, maybe not buying a car, but you could buy a lot of dope stuff with zips moving forward. So that's kind of the first thing that we have going on with the early movers NFT. Please go mint if you would like to do so. It's 500 Supra. And then the next thing is go follow Tradeport on X. They're doing incredible stuff over there. Daniel, I had a wonderful time with you. Your team's incredible. Shout out to Lewis and Mary. Those are the other 2 people that I've been in contact with over there. I had meetings with them. I had a great time. If you're not following Tradeport yet, which it looks like Hoyt's not. So Hoyt, go hit that follow button, dude.
Come on,
crazy. It's crazy, dude. All right. And anyways, thank y'all so much for watching. Daniel, if you have anything else you want to say on the way out, this would be your time to do so.
No, thanks, guys. I'm excited to see what you guys create on Tradeport as projects launch, and excited to see what the communities do there.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see the NFT projects that release on Tradeport. As y'all know, your boy's an NFT guy. Give me whitelist. I'll mint it. I promise. I have a problem. Just send me whitelist. I'll mint your project. If I like it enough, I'll PFP it. But that's it for me. That's it for Daniel. Thank you for coming. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Daniel, thank you for letting me take 30 minutes extra of your time. I know you're super busy, dude. Yep. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you soon. And also, let's do it again soon, dude. This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon. What's up?
Yeah.